I'm here in Bethnal Green today because there is a rally and vigil taking place organised by the East London branch of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. I believe it's Tower Hamlets and Newham, Hackney as well. And the idea is to bring people together to talk about Palestine, to listen to speakers. Some of the speakers on here are actually Palestinian as well. There's a Palestinian journalist who I interviewed just last week. And today is about making sure that the issue doesn't die away, and also preparing themselves for the big march that's taking place, the national demonstration on the 13th of January. One of the things the Israelis want to do, which is their stated war aim, is to promote people to voluntarily leave the Gaza Strip. Two questions. Are Gazans going to leave the Gaza Strip? And number two, if they were to leave, where would they want to go?
The vast majority wouldn't leave because they're not willing to become refugees again after what their grandparents experienced in 1948. They prefer to die in Gaza rather than becoming refugees in the desert in Egypt. We are people, steadfast people. We are people of resilience. We have, attachment to that part of the world, Palestine. We are the indigenous people of Palestine. So some people might leave, but the vast majority wouldn't, because Israel has been working to continue the ethnic cleansing that it started 75 years. It will not happen. People refuse to become, victims of this brutal occupation. We are not going to vanish.
You're a healthcare worker. We've seen so many healthcare workers perish in Gaza under the Israeli bombardment. And I was there a few weeks ago when I covered the healthcare workers demonstration and rally in central London. How important, how heroic are these people that are working under such atrocious conditions in the Al-Shifa hospital, in all the other hospitals that we've seen?
They're absolutely incredible. I don't know how they do it. Every day they're being, hospitals are being bombed. Which should be completely off limits. But hospitals are being bombed. So just like everyone else in Gaza, they have no idea when that bomb is coming for them. But they still go in. They do their best. And hospitals have been reduced to rubble. Aid isn't getting in that should be getting in. So when we hear stories of babies having limbs amputated without anaesthetic, women having caesarean sections without anaesthetic, it's beyond awful. And those people who go and health workers are being killed, just like over 20,000 other Gazans. They are fantastic human beings.
I think the lull was in terms of how we presented in terms of demonstrating, but actually there were people who came out on Oxford Street, on Oxford Circus, who demonstrated against people who were shopping and ignoring the fact that there was a genocide going on. There's a lot of people who still continue to post on social media. There's a lot of people who still continue to voice, whether it was through Palestine Solidarity campaigns or just doing their own thing individually. People were still doing what they needed to be doing. The only difference is it wasn't getting that mainstream bit on the news. We're still out here. We're still doing what we need to be doing, whether it's as simple as writing about it, talking about it, being artistic about it, raising the voices of Palestinians back home about it. We're doing something.
To me, in the name of Sven Lindquist, you already know enough. So do I. It's not knowledge we lack. What's missing is the courage to understand what we know and to draw conclusions. What is lacking is courage. It's always an indictment when journalists are killed, because journalists are part of, or should be part of a mission to be informing people about what's going on. Now, what I don't think is that journalists are a protected category. I don't think their lives are any more important than anybody else's. But their work is important because their work is the work of telling stories, of keeping people's understanding of what is happening rooted in reality. And so when you kill them and when you attack them, and it's clear that at times those attacks have been deliberate and purposeful, what you're doing is killing each death, you kill a part of the truth. You kill a part of an effort to tell the truth.
In terms of where we're going over the next few weeks, does it look like a ceasefire? I've never heard so much word salad over ceasefire. How many connotations can you have over a ceasefire? A ceasefire means ending the fire. But will we actually get to a point where there is a ceasefire?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Yes, I think that people of good faith know what they mean by a ceasefire. Stop the killing, stop the murdering. And stop the murdering, free the hostages, stop killing civilians.
Yeah.
So I don't think the notion of the ceasefire is complicated. What is difficult to fathom, on one sense, is when will anybody, on what basis could one suggest that this war is over?
Yeah.
That what are the objectives of the war, if not to displace an entire people? Okay. If not to displace an entire people, what are your purposes? Most of Gaza has been razed to the ground. So what is the possible value of the bombs that you rain upon them at this point?
And very finally, you mentioned Keir Starmer and the Labour Party without being that overt, but obviously you were talking about the politicians. How do you think they've performed throughout all of this?
Well, I mean, what's interesting to me, if we look at opinion polls, is that you have these politicians who say, look, we must give people what they want. They want X, and so we must give them X, whatever it is. Well, people want a ceasefire. People in Britain, people in America, people in across Europe, they want a ceasefire. And so you have an entire political class doing the opposite of actually what people want. So what we're seeing, and we saw it with Iraq as well, is an entirely dysfunctional democracy or a kind of a vision of democracy where the people with power are completely ignoring the wishes and the aspirations of the voters. People in Britain want a ceasefire.
For me, personally, the reason why I'm doing this, or a lot of people are doing this, is to save humanity, right? Yeah. And I think many people will actually turn up on January 13th, which is a Saturday, in London for our national march and protest, because we've had such a big gap. And I think, and one of the reasons why our event took place today on December 31st is because we want to fill the gap. We do not want to be, having a big void of nothing. We want to keep going with Palestinian voices, under the hashtag of We Won't Be Silent. We want to make sure that we amplify their voices, and we want them to know, if they can hear us, that we're here for them. We're here for them until they're free, inshallah.